So I know we've kind of talked about, kind of this new operating model. I know we've talked a little bit as well about sort of the end goal or the North Star, right? But I think, what does that mean? So AI systems are consuming data in different ways. They're maybe generating new data. So from a customer perspective, what do you think that means? And kind of how does the resiliency model fit in there?
So my fundamental belief, and the Veeam's belief, is that there's a lot of companies that are securing data, securing desktops, and want to manage and control the agents that are operating. And we all think there's goodness in all of that. But unless you have resiliency on that data and you know what the data is and can actually understand the contextualization of the data and the privacy and maybe even what's shouldn't be shared or a model run on. And I think I'll go back to that undoing scenario is like having a backup of that data if something gets corrupted or stolen or compromised. All of that is kind of an ecosystem of your data movement. And you can't have data protection or data privacy without data resilience. And when I say it, it sounds kind of like common sense. But when I look at most products that are being built today, they're assuming that all of this is in place, when our research and the things we've done now show that it's absolutely, most companies have been either ignoring it, not prioritizing it, or there hasn't been budget to do it. It's not like people don't want to do it. It's just it hasn't been a priority, and now it's becoming front of the line requirement for every CIO and CISO out there.
Yeah. We agree. We fielded research last fall that showed, I think it was almost 2/3 of customers had not even backed up half of their AI-generated data, right?
Wow.
So I think we're still in early stages there.
Yeah,
And it sounds like you're
absolutely.
seeing that as well.
I was struck by some of the attendees. I mean, Christa,
Yeah.
you're a hybrid. It's kind of
Yeah.
a data protection and cyber resilience and security. There are some pure play security analysts
Yeah.
here. I was talking to Scott from the 451. He's really a security guy. So my question is, how has the maturity model affected your ability to have a conversation starter essentially with CISOs versus, I'm going to an extreme, versus the backup admin?
Yeah. So I've joined Veeam, in the last 2 quarters now, and we always were comfortable with Andy, the backup admin. Right, that was kind of like our go-to default
Your
person.
peeps.
That's our person, right? That's our people. That's our community. And now it's evolving into the CISO. And sometimes the CISO will say, yes, I care about data, but why do I care about the backup? And we're like, wait, that's how you can undo some of the mistakes you may have within your production data set. And they go, I understand, but how does it pertain to me? And now we're getting the security teams in the room. We're getting the backup teams who are also questioning, why am I in the security conversation? And we're starting to see, and you nailed this when it came to the SaaS world of creating new departments and new job profiles. The role of a solution architect inside of a company didn't exist prior to SaaS. And now what we're seeing is you don't have just a security engineer or a backup admin or a backup engineer. We're now hearing things like resiliency engineer and an AI accelerator engineer, people who are driving and connecting teams together. And our prediction over the next probably 2 to 3 years is a lot of these departments are going to come together, whether they're called data governance or data protection or data privacy. But these 2 teams are now all going to fall under one leader. I don't know, is it going to be a CIO mandate or is it going to be a new remit for the CISO? But you're seeing infrastructure and applications start blending together.
Well, it's an organizational conundrum right now. Forward deployed AI engineers are like the hottest job right now.
Right.
And they are going to be, remember the developer, we had the whole shift left movement. The developer became responsible for, security. Developers aren't security pros. And, one has to wonder, okay, these forward deployed engineers, they're really good at getting agents to work, figuring out how to, spin up MCP servers, how to get them to talk to each other. They're not governance and scaffolding and security experts. That's where I see this AI trust layer that Anand talked about this morning. I see that as sort of the harness and the scaffolding around, this new system of intelligence that's emerging. And the maturity model, I would imagine most customers, most enterprises, don't have that scaffolding and those harnesses in place.
Yeah, 100%. And one thing that the maturity model is driving is what skills do you need for the future? So it's not just grading you on a scale from 0 to 4 in each one of the 12 dimensions, but it's saying, to your point, forward deployed engineer, every single company is developing. Palantir started it. Now everyone's evolving to saying, how do I have a forward deployed engineer in my company? How do I have an AI accelerator aligned to every business unit? And now we're saying, well, where's the governance? And I keep saying governance was always, oh, who cares about governance? It's a dirty word. It's compliance under the covers. And now people are saying, well, I can come up with the best use case and best agent, but if it starts hallucinating on bad data, I have a real problem. And part of our research has shown that a lot of the companies that we talked to had 40 to 50% of their initial production testing of AI agents to drive hallucinations on bad data. So it goes back to this whole change and shift that's happening in our industry, where we not only recommend what data needs to be secured and resilient, but also what roles may be missing within your organization.
Tony, how do I take advantage of the maturity model? How do I engage? Who do I have to get involved? From my end, if I'm the customer, what personas? Who do you bring to the table?
So what we're asking for, because it's early days for us, is we need a sponsor. It doesn't have to be a C-suite person, but someone who is empowered to work cross-functionally. If someone's like, you know what, I want a data maturity model on my backup, that's not going to work. It has to be someone who has a purview across multiple teams within an organization. The ones that I've worked on so far have been endorsed by the CIO. So typically the CIO says, I want this done. It's no cost to the customer. You can go on Veeam.com. We have an easy way to get access to our team. The other option is to go to your sales account executive and say, I want a DR data and AI trust maturity model. It is a mouthful, but that's how you engage with Veeam. We bring our experts in, we run this analysis with you, and then we do a readout for your team. It's a very low effort engagement, but we do need sponsorship because we don't want to be there. We show up with really high-powered consultants that then come back and say, well, we couldn't get anyone to pay attention to our meeting. To us, this is a very high-valued, couple $100,000 report that typically would be done by a McKinsey type organization that we're doing pro bono for our customers.
And to get the data that you need for that report, who do you need in the room? Ideally, the CISO, he or she is sponsoring it. Do you need the CIO, the application heads, the SecOps team? Do you need the backup team?
So we want the want the backup team. If it's a regulated industry, understanding what compliance requirements they have. We obviously know, what customers are asking for from a compliance perspective. We definitely want the CISO, and if there's a chief data officer or a chief analytics officer, someone who can show us the data movement in and out. And then we're smart enough to know within an organization, what they're using, how they're leveraging it. And then from there, we can basically off and running. But it's a very lightweight effort for us. We just need access and the right people in the room so we can get to the right outcome.
Is the degree of sophistication around data classification proportionally, roughly consistent with where they are on the maturity
I would
curve?
say that's a really good assessment. Yeah. And most companies, the term garbage in, garbage out, I've heard it more in the last probably 6 months than I have in the last 10 years because it is so true. Data hygiene, data quality have just been ignored for such a long period of time and people just dealt with it.
Yeah.
Now AI runs on that data and it's putting a spotlight onto how bad organizations have kept and maintained data over the last handful of years or decades.
So what's the prescription there? I've heard two schools of thought. One says get your data house in order before you invest a lot in AI. The flip side of that, which is kind of counterintuitive, says get on the AI curve and let the AI help cleanse and harmonize the data. What are you hearing?
So we've actually seen both schools of thought. I would say definitely start your AI journey now if you haven't already. At the same time, in parallel, do it on use cases where you have maybe trusted sources of data.